Yeah, I won't rewind to the beginning of the presentation. I just said I'm Branislav. So, hi. You guys? Yeah, so today's talk is going to be about deploying PHP in Drupal in general. Now, even though PHP is interpreted language, today whoever does Symfony coding or even Drupal 8 coding actually has to compile PHP. We have like YAML files, which are really difficult to read, difficult to understand for PHP machine, saying that they have to be compiled to a PHP code, and that's this file in files folder, like lots of PHP files. They're actually like assembled information into easy to read and execute PHPs. So we're all compiling PHP more or less, and not only PHP today. Like we're all compiling CSS because we have this beautiful preprocessors, lesses, sasses, etc., etc. So yeah, but it was not always like that. Before deployment became complicated, we had FTP. Who used FTP here? Who loves FTP? 2 people! Yay! I hate it. Everybody hates it. You should hate it too. I mean, okay, first we used FTP to upload secure like our passwords to access databases. How crazy is that? I mean, FTP is totally an encrypted protocol. So then we made FTP and things became a little bit better, but still. So now we have this beautiful way of like doing stuff. So you would just pick up your files from your local and just put them to your remote. You would hit F5 in your browser, and we are talking about live server, of course, and you would get something like this. And so it's one of those things that we really don't care about, because of course now you have error and you know precisely what's wrong with your live site, and you're going to fix those lines in FTP again. But security. And yeah, this is real world error, and this is actually error you're getting when you're updating Drupal. So because if you want to update Drupal, you're actually going to delete all Drupal files in your web server and then upload new files via FTP. That will take you at least 15 minutes in like best case scenario, and during that time this is embarrassing error you're going to send. So in order not to embarrass yourself, you're going to learn how to use PHP ini and hide errors. So that's something we learned relatively early, and even those site updating, we learned how to replace index PHP with index HTML and have something like this. So we're kind of fine, but this is kind of embarrassing. You're going to have this site unavailable message every time you want to update PHP or update Drupal, and yeah, so that is going to kind of reduce number of updates on your site. So who still uses FTP today for any project? Nobody. One?
No.
Oh, Jesus. Okay, so yeah, I also have this kind of client-ish, or people I worked with a couple of years ago. Sometimes they need help, and I actually have to like use FTP. Problem is, like, I didn't know which application I should use for that on Mac, because yeah, FTP. Anyways, thing is, whatever we try to do, like to make our site a little bit more secure, a little bit more beautiful during these maintenance times, we are going to introduce something that's going to complicate our lives. And one of the things we introduced to complicate our lives, but also solve many of these problems, is of course revision control. And now, who uses revision control here? Everybody? Yeah, of course. And revision control really exists since the day I was born in 1982, which is kind of funny. Yeah, so basically we got Git 20 years. No, yeah, 15 years after web was born, and it really changed the way you're doing things. And yeah, after 2011, when Git got like default version control on Drupal.org, we started using it, really. So, and Git replaced our well-established FTP workflows. So we were really good at FTP. So, we had this ability to kind of archive old files, make these zip files where we actually operated with files. Then we would just move these updates and do all kinds of crazy things. Now we don't have to do that. It introduced really strange concepts of branching and merging and rebasing, and that was a little bit odd for all those people who were just hitting F5 and copying things to server, and we really needed to explain business values to our bosses, which is also kind of blah, but yeah. And we started building workflows around Git. And the early Git workflow was we would pick up all the files we have changed. We are going to have really ugly commit messages, and we are going to git put origin master, git push origin master, and that's it. Then we would deploy by SSHing to the remote server. We would go to the site where server is, and we would do git pull origin master. So who does this today? Yeah, 2 people only. Come on, who did it a year ago? Okay, something's wrong here. Who did it like 2 years ago? Come on. Okay, so yeah, this is good workflow, but you have a problem. You have a problem because first you want to use branches because that is going to allow multiple people to work and not to interfere with each other. And also you're going to be able to fork like experiments, etc. Then of course you want you don't want .git directory to be in your web server because that is a security issue. And yeah, so are you going to SSH to the server for every single pull or deployment? And finally, yeah, it's boring and it can be automated. So who automates this process? Are you using something like this? No. Okay, so what are you using?
Capistrano.
Capistrano. Okay.
And Bamboo, we also in the process of moving to Bamboo.
I haven't played with Bamboo.
It's from Atlassian and Jira. So it's also automated tasks to deploy.
Well, this is like an early, and I believe in background it also does this, because this is really like low-level way of doing things. So there is a post-receive hook, which is being triggered every time Git receives a new commit or new transfer, and in a file which is just a shell file, you would just execute this script, and it would pick up the head of your project and just move it, or working tree of your project, and move it to the directory you specified. Is that easy? So yeah, you can commit to Git. It ends up in this Git folder, whatever that is. It is going to be copied to the physical location of your web root. Now, problem with this approach is, post-receive hooks can do all kind of compiling and things, and you can add extra power with it, which comes a little bit problematic. Control, everybody has access to all repositories, so you need to kind of add that level of control. And yeah, problem is that you're going to have a lot of websites and a lot of Git repositories all bundled in a single machine, which is also a problem. Maybe you want to have Git repositories totally separated somewhere else to add a little bit of redundancy. So, what's wrong here? Yeah, and final problem is that if you have multiple sites on a single web server, if a single website has security vulnerability, you're going to have this problem. So, who has problems with Drupal-Geddon? Or who was cleaning up the mess after Drupal-Geddon? Yeah, it was terrible because Drupal-Geddon was actually allowing hackers to access your entire server. It was not well protected, and that was kind of messy. So we learned how to deal with this also, with broken code and everything. We did code reviews, and now when you think about it, code review is pretty awesome thing to have, like another pair of eyes to see what's happened or what's changed. And for that we use either patch files or some user interfaces around them. So what would you do is, in this early code review stages of development, you would check out to a feature branch. You would of course commit the stuff you developed, and you would push to the any remote server you have, and then somebody who is going to review your code is going to pull both master and feature branch. They're going to run diff, and that is going to provide the file. So who does this kind of feature or reviews? Okay, who's active with Drupal.org? Because at Drupal.org we are doing precisely that. It's a little bit ugly, and so basically reviewers are not creating patches. People who are developing are creating patches, but basically that's it. We are reviewing those ugly files. And it is time consuming and boring. We need a way to provide like inline commenting. This line is bad, this one is not. And thread at Drupal.org threads don't look really good. So, there are better tools for that. Google has Garrett, and we have GitHub and GitLab. Who used Garrett here? Garrett basically works on commit level, so you are going to review every single commit, which is kind of a little bit complicated, but And GitHub, of course, works on pull request level, where we are comparing two repositories, and GitLab is comparing two branches of the same repository. But and when you think about pull request workflow, it would look something like this. You would have a main repository that is going to have to be forked by developer to this fork repository, and this all happens in GitHub. Then a developer would pull from his fork repository, do some commits, whatever that is. When he's done, he would push to fork repository, and he would create a pull request to developer or maintainer of the main repository. Now, why is this good workflow? Because you can add multiple developers who are doing on the same fork, and it all congregates to the same pull request. And GitHub provides this really nice UI, which allows project maintainers to actually comment, and once they are happy, they can choose the way they're going to merge that particular code to the original code base. They can create merge commit, which is standard way of doing things. They can squash all the previous commits or all the contributed fork commits into a single commit and merge that, or he can rebase on top of his own code. So, who uses pull requests for code review? It's good. It's the best thing we have currently, I guess. So now, of course, this is a good thing. And once content maintainer, project maintainer is happy with pull requests and merges it to main repository, he needs to deploy it. And deployments look like this. So first he would pull to his local, and then he would push to his to this hosting environment, which has this post receive git thing. So now he would push to git repository in the hosting environment, post receive copy to web root, and it works. So it's not complicated, it's good. However, in Drupal world, you would update core from version 750 to 754, which actually is 4,500 lines of diff file, which is impossible to review, of course. And yeah, you have the problem because if you're going to commit every single update of your modules, contribute modules, you're going to clog the entire Git repository. So, and yeah, if you want to review then the history of Git, it's really impossible. So things are becoming even more complicated when you want to change functionality or patch existing module or core. Now, who hacks core here? I hack core. So when it's needed, you're going to patch it. So who hacks contrib modules here? More people. Okay. So you want to make a change in core or contrib. That it's not really in core and contrib. And you want to maintain a list of your changes or your patches somewhere, or patched modules. And yeah, you're never going to perform update again because your patches are going to be deleted. So that's one option. Or another option is, of course, to make a patch file and then commit that patch file to your source, maintain list of all patches, and whenever update a module, apply patch and whenever you update the module, you would apply the patch from this list of patches, and that goes on and goes on. And if you have too many patches, you're just going to decide never to perform updates again, and you'll be happy. So yeah, of course, this is poor workflow. We hate it, so we invented Drush Make for Drupal 7. Of course, it was built to be a packaging tool, but it became a patching tool, and it would download all the contrib modules with versions you required, and then it would apply patches automatically. Who uses Drush Make in Drupal 7 projects? Who doesn't use Drush Make in Drupal 7 projects? Yeah, legit, but it's a good thing to have. If you're going to do lots of patching, it's a good thing to have, and helps automating things. And really, anatomy of Makefile is relatively simple. You just list versions, etc. Also patches. And there is a YAML flavored version of Makefile as well. It looks, well, a little bit different, but does the same thing. And every time you want to actually, download and patch and everything, you just write Drush make name of the Makefile and -yes, which would do all these things. So now you can update a module with single change in your Git repository, because you wouldn't commit your modules, of course. So you commit the change, you would push it to the deploy server, and you would run Drush Make in deploy server. Why is this really good? Because you can automate it. This can be placed in post receive hook. Of course, you have to have a backup strategy. You have to be sure that while running this Drush Make process and downloading and replacing files and patching files, your Drupal site is going to be unstable. But it's not going to be unstable 15 minutes or 20 minutes, as in FTP workflow. It is going to be unstable maybe 2 minutes. DrushMake doesn't do database updates, so that needs to be taken care of. And yeah, it does not handle dependencies, saying that if you want to install views, you have to request both views and ctools in DrushMake. But in Drupal 8 we have Composer, which does all kinds of beautiful things, such as dependency management. It does auto-loading, and it's a universal PHP tool, which is actually a problem. Problem for us, of course. It looks, well, like this. So it's JSON file. You can require what you require in this required section. You can run scripts in kind of hook way, for example, after install. And yeah, you can add arbitrary data in extra section of the Composer JSON file. So, and adding project, a module to a project looks like this. You just Composer require Drupal commerce 2.x dev, and it would actually make sure all the dependencies were downloaded. So you would just add Composer JSON and Composer log file into your Git repository. You would commit, push to origin server, to server, and on server you would run Composer install. And Composer install would read log file and install not only the required module but also dependencies. However, Composer is not Drush, so it's a universal PHP tool. It doesn't do patching, it doesn't do this Drupal flavor directory structure. It uses vendor directory for contrib modules, so Drupal code. And yeah, Drupal.org has its own package repository, and yeah, this syntax needs to be learned. Problem is, like, biggest problem for me when I started using Composer was the fact that it's terribly slow compared to Drush, for example. So if you wanted to create, to just download Drupal core using Composer, you would need in average 131 seconds to get it, which is disaster. And yeah, Drush needs only 12 seconds. Composer with wrong caches, and I don't know how many wrong caches we're going to have, is 31 seconds, so it's like terrible. And of course, if you want to set up the project to use Composer, you're going to first make sure that Composer talks to the real repositories, to Drupal.org repository. And you're going to make sure that modules you downloaded or Composer downloaded are not in vendor directory, but in module /contrib/ whatever directories, and that can be done relatively easy. You would have to enable patching, which is this library, and after you use that library, you can actually apply patches relatively easy. So now deployment to web host looks a little bit different. Now Composer install is going to be delete all the outdated code, download new and updated code, make sure dependencies were downloaded as well, and apply patches. So it's a little bit time consuming and boring to set this boilerplate thing, especially because we already have one. So there is a Composer template for Drupal projects, and yeah, it actually makes sure that Composer JSON just works for you. So the question is whether to use DrushMake and Composer. This is a really old slide. Today, well, do you have any ideas whether to use DrushMake or Composer? Who is for DrushMake? Composer? Well, conclusion somehow is like you don't want to use Composer for Drupal 7 projects. It's, you know, documentation is not good, and also you don't want to use DrushMake for Drupal 8. So the question is whether or not you are going to use Drupal 7 or 8. Drupal 7 still uses DrushMake, and it's good. And that covers like file deployment. Let's talk about config deployment. Now, config deployment can be done in two ways. One way is manually, which always has its downsides. Who uses manual config deployment here? Nobody. I config sometimes manually. And another way is, of course, to create or export all the config into files and then version control those files. And with Drupal 7, we had this historical hook update and way of doing things. Who's using that? Who used that anytime in history? Yeah, several people. So basically, you would create this custom module, and in install file, you would just manually write your code to do some setting config change, and that code actually does config change in database. You would push that code and then just enable it and run update on remote, and it would do the same changes. It's time-consuming, boring, and prone to errors. We got features. Who uses features? Who hates features? Yeah. So, but we don't have anything better in Drupal 7. Basically, yeah, it is what it is. Problem with features is, first, it doesn't handle all those auto-increment indexes in Drupal 7, and blocks are, of course, auto-increment indexes. It has crazy terminology. So, what is recreate? What is reverse? I want to import config. What to do? What to click? And you know, a feature is a module. So people tend to build custom logic within those modules. So who does that? Like combines their own logic with feature logic. I do it every single day. And it's a problem because it's terribly managed after that. And when you create circular dependencies between features, that also can be a problem. Like feature A depends on feature B, feature B depends on feature A, and then you have to programmatically like untangle that. It is a problem. But yeah, we don't have anything better in Drupal 7, so I'm going to stop here nagging about it. In Drupal 8, we have config management. CMI acronym got stuck, even though it's not correct. I is for initiative. And really, with CMI, you can actually do your things in database, then export those config into YAML files in your development machine. You can, of course, version control it, and then just import them in live. So commands are drush cex and drush cim, and that just works most of the times. And finally, our maybe biggest source of stress is front end. When we want to deploy front end, we have to think about all the crazy technology front enders decided to use. So who's here front ender, like doing front end thing? One person only. Yeah, so basically front enders decided to use ECMAScript 6 and decided to compile that ECMAScript 6 into like a normal legacy language, which is ECMAScript something. Or they even went further and used TypeScript or CoffeeScript or Sasses, Lasses, and who knows what. And really, it is kind of complicated question whether or not you want to compile that in front end or in local user's environment or in some remote server. So I have no idea. I did kind of both things. Basically, whatever you do, you want to automate it. So final goal is automation. Now, this particular command, drush.dl admin toolbar drush en admin toolbar cannot be automated because it contains like business logic. But drush make and drush features revert all can be automated because it's the same whether or not you're enabling having toolbar reviews. And similar in Drupal 8 world, you would just say composer install and drush config import. That can be automated. So really simple Drupal 7 deploy script, which would actually be hook post receive in your Git, would look something like this. So it would make the project, it would update databases, clear caches, revert features, and if you have like this crazy front-end logic, you would just say grunt build and make sure that the front-ender doesn't screw up something in grunt or gulp automation. In Drupal 8 world, it would be a little bit different, but same thing, basically composer install and then rebuild caches, update databases, config import, and of course, grunt build. And deployment workflow would look something like this. You would push to Git repository. Git repository has this post receive hook. It would make sure your files are in web host. But let's make it a little bit complicated because you don't want version control in your server, especially if you have such nice services. For example, GitHub. So GitHub uses this webhook mechanism to emit push event to your server. Now you would have to have like a URL or a path or a route which would actually do things when it receives push events, and really there is this relatively simple piece of software which does that. So who uses Jenkins here? Yeah. So basically you can automate your tasks using Jenkins, and it would then just run this pulling to web host and run again this shell script to kind of update your things. But let's make it even more complicated by replacing, like you want to have test host and you want to have production host. So and of course you can do it with tagging in push events, and basically Jenkins would then decide whether or not to deploy to this or that directory, but that's kind of insecure, so you would have to code Jenkins to work with containers, and that is extra job you have to do, and you're a PHP developer or Drupal developer and you want to deal with, I don't want to deal with containers. So you can automate everything, you can make it secure, but it's going to take a lot of time. So there's a platform message which actually helps with these things. So it helps with site instability during builds because it actually has this fantastic idea of having, while it's serving from old version of container, when it receives new commit or new push, it is actually going to start building a new container. It is going to make sure that all files are in new container. Then it is going to stop holding requests from the old version of the container, reattach all the services, database, etc. to the new one, start serving requests from the new container, and when you are, when it's done, it would just delete the old version of it. So that makes really tiny time window where your site is not going to be unstable, but people are just going to wait for their requests to be served. If you don't want to take care about security, platform message can take care about security for you. So every single service is really strongly isolated on the network. We have read-only file system in our containers. So once something is written and containers are locked and ready to serve requests, nobody, not even we, nobody can actually change those files. We have to destroy the entire container and replace it with a new one in order to continue serving requests. Operating system is minimal. We take care of updating PHP for you, and Yeah, so it's really secure. We take care of that. And of course, you want to make your site as flexible as possible by integrating with both UI, which allows you to merge and well, make sure that you can work with your environments in this relatively easy way, or you can even use CLI and automate things if needed. And finally, we take care of scaling for you. So because every environment is a cluster actually, vertical scaling is relatively simple. But my conclusion is that since 2010 to 2017, deployment changed dramatically. So we needed to know one tool, FTP. Now we need to know like Git, Drush, Jenkins, Composer, GitHubs, Runs, Gulps, etc., which is, well, a lot of things to learn, but it is what it is. Thank you. Do you have any questions? Rotten Tomatoes, comments? No? We have some platform SH stickers here, but also some candies. So enjoy on your way out. Thank you.
Before you all leave, I want to make a small announcement. In your booklet, you see that the next session starts at 10:30, which is actually a mistake. Sorry for that. The next session starts at 10:15. So in this room, 10:15, and the other room